I'm more vulnerable than ever. And part of it is like in speaking about this, when I'm having a bad day now, I don't have to hide it so much.
Truth be told, she's both a light and a force, inspiring me daily to laugh a little bit more and find joy even in the smallest of things. But as she'll tell you in a second, sometimes the encourager needs to be encouraged too. Thank you to my friend, colleague, ABC News correspondent, Good Morning America co-anchor, Janai Norman.
Woo woo.
How are you, Janai?
Ah,
What's going on?
oh my gosh, Tony, the encourager needs to be encouraged. I might need to get that on a shirt because a whole word right there. But
Yeah.
that's so true. Thank you for saying
Oh
that.
my gosh, I got you. Well, I want to get right into this. Janai, the beginning of the year, for your 33rd birthday, you posted this incredibly vulnerable post on Instagram sharing your challenges and struggle with mental health. What prompted you to share so much and, on what many would feel as like a celebration of life, your birthday?
So, my birthday is January 4th, so it's right around the beginning of the year. Everyone's thinking about new beginnings and, resolutions. And I always like to then just look at my birthday as the time to really start that.
Yeah.
And I'm always amazed by what can happen in a year. And it was really just like looking back in hindsight and taking stock of what I had been through, gone through in the past year. And I feel like if we were celebrating anything in terms of celebrating me and my birthday, that's what I wanted to celebrate. How I had grown in the 365 days before that.
I love it. Well, you wrote also, I'm going to pull a quote here. You said, I chose to begin the hard work to become my best self. What was that hard work? What did that entail?
So, you know, when you think about like being your best self, I think anyone's like wants to be their best self and hopes that they're going through life as their best self. But I think it really takes taking a step back and really evaluating yourself, your actions, your relationships, and asking, am I doing all that I can to be my best self? And you said, like, what did that entail? Well, thinking about what am I consciously intentionally doing to be my best self? And if that list is short, maybe you're not doing as much as you should do or could do. And there came a point in 2021 where it was clear to my husband and I, probably him first, that I needed more help than I was getting. And when I say more help, that entailed doing intensive outpatient and partial inpatient hospitalization. So, I mean, just intensive therapy, group therapy, individual therapy. And even after that program, at one point, it was 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then eventually 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. And I took a month off of work, was doing that, and then slowly getting back into work and then doing more therapy. But even more than that, I had to realize that I had to allow people to help me.
Mm.
I had to be vulnerable in that way. So, and I'm still getting over, we talk a lot about stigma and stuff. I had to I had to hire nannies. And I know that that's like, oh, first world problems, and it very much so is, and I can appreciate that. But at the same time, Tony,
Yeah.
working in this business can be crazy and you're traveling a lot, and when like I have two young children, I can't be everything to everybody every day. I can't.
Right.
And so I had to realize where I needed help and get that help in all those places that I needed it.
What would you say in like posting that post? What was that shift for you? Where you really, when you had to activate on that idea and sense that, oh, I need help.
So I know that when I had my first son, I was working with ABC, but out of the DC bureau, and I took 4 months off, and that was a huge shift because suddenly everything that I'd been working for in terms of my career, all of that was put on the back burner, and then I was mom, so I was putting a big part of myself on the back burner and taking on this whole new identity, and that was a big shift. I got through it, but then with my daughter, I wanted to I wanted to be more prepared for postpartum and the potential of postpartum depression. And I planned and plotted, but the pandemic happened and things were out of our control. My husband and I don't have any family near us. Our closest family is in Washington, D.C., which is hours away. And so the first year of the pandemic, not only being postpartum and still isolated from our community, but both of us trying to work full time while balancing childcare because we're still not comfortable just sending her to a daycare, all these things. Um, and so that was, I decided at first to take a month off work, thinking, okay, maybe I just need some time. And we went on vacation for a while, and it was literally being on vacation in paradise and still having like a breakdown and just realizing I can't take a break from this. I can't fly away from this. I can't drink away from this. I have to face this, and I have
Mm.
to face this now to be my best self for myself, for my family, for my job, all of those different ways.
It's like instead of you meeting that moment meets you in a way.
Oh my gosh, you can try to run from it, but eventually, in my case, the moment came right to me and was like, look, girl, you pack that suitcase, I'm still here.
Oh my gosh. Well, a testament to what you were just saying, you mentioned also that some days are still hard. You know, just because you come to a place where you ask for help and you're getting that help doesn't mean this all goes away. You're kind of
Yeah.
given this new toolbox, right? But when you say days are still hard, days are different than before, though. So how are you taking on those difficult days differently than you did before?
So it's interesting because part of it is just this level of awareness, um, which sometimes is still really painful because it's like I am more in tune with how I react to certain situations. I'm more in tune to what my triggers are. And now it's like still continuing the work of reacting differently, of changing my response to things that have become almost like a part of my programming
Mm.
of how I've been conditioned to react to things since I was a little girl. And it is now changing all of that. And so when I say there are still hard days, there are like, and it's also just giving myself grace and being like, hey, you have anxiety, so sometimes it's tough. Hey, sometimes you're more likely to get depressed. That's all right. What are we going to do today to help that? Maybe we need to nap. It's listening to my body. When I need a break, I need a break. Um, but it's had there's so much more awareness to all of it, which I think that's a huge step in being able to identify things, piece them together, and now figure out, you know what, I did A, B, and I ended up at G, but now I want to get to L and M. So what can I do to get there? And as long as there's progress, that's really all I can ask of myself.
I love that. Small attainable goals, if you will.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the nap part resonates with me for what it's worth.
Seriously, and I know that like a lot of people joke about like I don't know if there's actually a thing called nap culture, but it's really like we buy into the grind culture. We're always on the go. Like when do you and I ever actually see each other in person? When we do, we're so excited, but we've got 15 seconds because we're both jetting off to places. And it's like you've got to take time to really relax, reset, have silence, get in tune with yourself. And you can't do that when you're always going and always working on doing what's best for someone else.
You and I have talked a lot about language, and perhaps the way we talk about mental health and its resources matters too. Things like the words rehab or facility, or even the word help can carry negative connotations. What's your take
Yeah.
on all that and shifting our language? I mean, you've already, in this conversation, we've kind of used a little bit of shifted language as well. What's your take on that?
I mean, I think that it's all a part of, I mean, when we talk about stigma, it's those little things that become ingrained so much so that you're not even thinking about it. Um, and you know what? Honestly, I can tell you a little story. There was one time my husband and I were watching TV or something, and I do not remember exactly what it was, but somehow the idea of someone being in a mental facility came up, and we said something like, "Oh, like the crazy house or something."
Mm.
But now here I'd been, and we were like, oh, wait a second. And it literally took us taking a second on the couch at that moment and being like, well, no, we have to rethink this because you can't call it that, even if you're joking. It's just really being, again, more mindful about the words we're using, the way that we're talking about things, um, and doing our small part. It's something that's so little, but contributes to a really big problem. So, like you said, just us using different language right now helps.
I have to quote my gal pal Brene Brown here, and she always says, you know, your world is only as expansive as your vocabulary. So if your vocabulary is limited, so is
Yeah.
your world. So I think that goes a long way in terms of diminishing stigma for mental health and stigma in general. But flash forward to today, before I let you go, what would you say, Janai, is your truth? How do you define Janai Norman today?
Um, I would say that I'm more vulnerable than ever. And part of it is like in speaking about this, when I'm having a bad day now, I don't have to hide it so much
Mm.
because it's out there. And that alone feels really good because that's part of the thing with all of this. A lot of times we don't know how much someone is struggling because they're putting on a mask, they're faking it really well. And this gives me just a little bit more reason to not have to fake it because now people know that I still have hard days, and it also allows me to give others grace and realizing like I need grace, but I have to have the ability to give it before I ask for it, and that feels really good.
It sure does. Janai Norman, thanks for being bold, my friend. And for being a friend, thanks for letting your truth be told. Love you, girl.
Thank you. Love you, Tony.